So there's the first two race days done, and some of the predictions came true, some didn't. Can't always be right. Birchall's 120, obviously massive highlight. Those boys are absolutely on it. They could have gone quicker if they wanted to. Didn't need to, and that's been the story really of the first few races, hasn't it? You know, it's been a case of the guys leading the race, goes quick, gets a gap, manages it, brings it home. Michael looks absolutely unstoppable at the moment, doesn't he? People are starting to talk now about can he win them all, and of course he can. He's flying on all his bikes. He's been under the lap record on 2 of the 4 bikes. The only maybe question mark, if you remember last year, he didn't finish the twin race because they are fragile. They are fragile things, and they get absolutely thrashed around here, especially with Michael on them. You know, they must be. I'd love to see the percentage time of full throttle for one of those around here. It must be high, and that's high as a sidecar, but must be high. So yeah, I mean, if Michael keeps going the way he is, he could win every race. And imagine that 100th year of the sidecars. Birchall's do the 120. Michael turns up and wins all 8 races the same year. It'd just be an amazing year. But we'll not get ahead of ourselves. There's so much that can go wrong mechanically, and you know, nothing's a given, and he knows that better than anybody else. And but he's absolutely on fire. But he's riding so well. He looks so lean. He jumped off that bike yesterday. We were in pit lane for the race, me and Mike Watt and Tony, and he jumped off the bike and he looked like he'd maybe done half a lap, not 6, and not 6 at that speed. He's just he's fit lad, and he just looks like it's no trouble to him. Looks like he's rattled Hickman's cage a little bit, and he did the fastest lap of the race on the last lap and almost got that lap record. So he's got the pace in the bike. Like he says himself, he needs to start faster, and if you can, it'll make for a really good race at the end of the week. But we've got a lot to get through before that, but there's no point me being here just talking to you about what's happened in the races. We all know what's happened, and I'm sure that's not why you've come. So we went up there on Saturday morning and got up there really early because it was nearly road closure, and obviously there was an RTC on the mountain which delayed things for quite a while. So we had the intention, me and Jim, of making quite a cool little video, and things didn't quite work out up there like they often don't. But cut a long story short, a friend of mine was coming over from the States for his first TT, and the girls were kind enough to get me a couple of start line passes for them. But unfortunately, due to some family circumstances, he couldn't make it. So I had these 2 start line passes, and I said to Jim, so let's go and find somebody behind the grandstand who hasn't got any passes, who's here for their first TT, and let's surprise them with them. And we're going to make a really nice video about it. But the way things work with time and things, it didn't quite happen. But they've got passes to this really nice couple who've come over from Scotland. Jim just sat down at a table. I went to get some coffees, and just so happened to be sitting next to a couple who were here for the first time. She bought it, I think, as a surprise birthday for him. He'd never been before, or neither of them had been, and they're having a great time, just absorbing the atmosphere. They hadn't even been to the fan park yet. They were just sat at the tables behind the grandstand, and they didn't really know where to go, what to do. So we gave them loads of information, gave them passes for the start line. I saw them up there. They were absolutely beaming. And then I sent them down to a friend's house who's on Bray Hill for the Sunday race, the Superbike race. She opens up her house for TT, and it's one of the best spots on the course. But if you don't get there early, you don't get in. So I contacted her on Saturday and said, can they come down tomorrow morning? She, yeah, of course they can. So they went down there. I saw some pictures of them down there yesterday, and it looks like they had a great time. So hopefully they'll send me some stuff, some pictures and videos, and maybe we can just sort of show you the experience they had. But yeah, it was just nice to do that. And then Mike 7, Johnny, he was talking to the Arai guys about making a video. So we, after the racing finished on Saturday, me and Johnny hung around the grandstand, and we did some filming with Arai for a new documentary they're making. More of a tech-based documentary now about the helmets and what goes into them, the safety and the features and things. So we did some filming with them, and those guys are ace. We met with them 5 years ago and did a bit for the last Arai film they made here. And they're really keen. They're really keen on TT. They're really keen on making good video as well. And the way they shot it all with the sunset, we've got the bikes in pit lane, and put up a photo now of us and the guys. Great bunch of lads. And again, I saw them yesterday, Sunday, for the start of the Superbike race, and they're still absolutely buzzing. They just love being here. So it's just nice that people who are working here just would be here regardless anyway. They just love it. So we've had quite a, not allowed to say the Q word, but we've had a reasonably easy week in terms of our duties. I think mainly it's down to the good weather, because the track's it's in a good condition, but it's in a predictable condition. So people are getting a little bit upset about these warm-up laps, these sighting laps at the start of the day. And I understand why. Close the road, say at 12 o'clock, the practice lap will start at 1, and then the boys will come back in, and then the race won't start till 2, and there's big gaps then, you see. When you close the road and you have to wait an hour before you see your first bike, and then the bikes come past you, and there might only be 30 who want to do the sighting lap. They come past you for 2 or 3 minutes, and then there's an hour before the start of the race. There's a lot of waiting for people out on the course, but also for everybody else. And it's a little bit frustrating, and the idea was you bring that in so the riders get a chance to have a look at the track before you go racing. And some riders like it, some don't. Some people like to have that look, some people prefer for everyone else not to have that look, and you just go down that hill and you find out on the first lap. And when you've got bad weather and it's rained overnight, or it rained later on the previous day, if it was the day off or what have you, then it's good to have a look at the track and find out if there's any damp patches, and just see what condition the course is in on the day you're racing. But this week you could say, well, nothing's changing, it's just sunny and 20 degrees every day. There's no damp patches, there's nothing to worry about. But it's in there, and that's just the way it is. But yeah, in terms of the things we've had to deal with, it's been minimal. There's been a few offs. Matt Stevenson, he's done his leg there, but ultimately he'll be okay. We had a sidecar off at Brandywell, beaten up, need an operation or two to straighten things out and pin things, but again, going to be fine. You know, if you compare it to last year, it's been great this year in terms of, you know, all we want to do is just be there just in case. We don't want to go out and deal with these incidents, but we're ready, and we're really ready if we have to. So yeah, long may it continue. The weather is making a huge difference, I think, in terms of the standard of riding is great. Everyone's well up to speed in terms of laps. No one's pushing too hard because they're chasing a time that they haven't been able to get because of lack of practice, because they had loads. So all these things just help to make it quicker and safer. And you know, if we could control the weather, if you could buy a decent weather for 2 weeks, I'm sure the TT would. And we're getting really lucky this year, so really, really good. The bikes, obviously, absolutely flawless as you expect from Honda. The main thing, like we talked about in previous videos, is we changed the tyres on them. So it's our first time on the Metzeler's, and like I say, they've been really, really good. I was reducing the pressures a little bit through practice week because I like to feel the tyre working a little bit more. And when it's colder out there, it just takes, you know, if you reduce the pressures, you get a bit more movement in the tyre itself, creates a bit more heat, and you can just get a bit more of a feel. But in the middle of the day now, when the track temperature is really high, it's just moving around a little bit too much now. And all it means is it's just a little bit slower to steer, and the back just squirms a little bit on the power. And when you're on the edge of the tyre, so if you have a look at the edge of the tyre, you can see how it's just starting to move around a little bit. So I'm going to put the pressures back up, because now all we're doing is running in warm conditions in the middle of the day. So it's just about finding that out, and that's data that I'll store and I'll keep for next year. If we use the same tyres again, I'll know if we're running these Metzers again and it's this temperature in the day, or it's this temperature in the evening, and I'll mark down my pressures. And it's all stuff that personally I like to keep data like that, and I know I've got the scenarios and I can change the bike how I want it. The same way that I kept all the settings for the suspension and everything. It's all electronic now, but you can still change everything on it at the touch of a button. And it's easy to then change too much because it's dead easy to do it, but if you just do it and try it and feel it, and I've got it at a place where I'm really happy with. So yeah, bike's good. Photographers are taking some great pictures. Seen that picture of Johnny Mike 7 coming out of Lamfell onto Croncavardi in practice week? That's a great picture. And then one practice night, you get great pictures at night because the light's so good, especially on the mountain. So have a look at this one. That's me coming through Guthrie's, I think, coming back in at the end of the night, and look at the colours on that. Such a beautiful shot. And I've been lucky that the way things have worked, and I've ended up at the grandstand for the end of the last couple of sessions. I'm getting the Red Bib blap. So if you see the Red Bib on a TM, and it'll say LTM on the back. That's the Last Traveller Marshal. And it just means that all the marshals around the course know that we are the last bike on the track. competitors or Marshals, the only other vehicle you'll see after us is the roads open car. So it's a signal to everybody that that is the last bike on circuit. And it's a free lap all the way around the track, no stopping, not in the middle of traffic. So yeah, it's a great lap that, and especially with weathers like this. Sometimes if we've closed the road and we've tried to do something or it's been stopped because of weather, you've still got to send the LTM round, and sometimes it's absolutely dreadful, especially on the mountain. There was a case last year at the TT, and I think it was when we had one of the bad sidecar crashes and we got delayed into the evening. We went out to our sectors and then they said, listen, the weather's come in, we've run out of time, so make your way back to the grandstand. And I was going from Sulby Bridge, got to Ramsey, she's gone to the mountain, it was just fog and rain, it was absolutely miserable. So sometimes that lap's horrible, and sometimes it's great, like it was last night. So I was chatting to Mike too up at the grandstand yesterday, and Jim Hunter, and he's got some great ideas for some videos. If you go back through and look at our older videos, Jim did a series through lockdown of just 2, 3, 4 minute videos of stories about Michael and William, about Guy Martin, about some of the first incidents he attended, some of the luckiest ones. And he's got 30 years experience, Jim, and he's got so many stories, and some he can tell and some he can't. But yeah, he's got so much in there, and he's talking about writing a book soon. So sorry, Jim, if I've just told people about that before they're meant to know. But he's gone back and forth with people about the things, and honestly, he's got some of the best stories. Stuff you can't buy, you can only get from doing this thing for 30 years. So Jim wants to come on, and we're going to do a bit of a two-piece. So we've got a couple of ideas. We're going to maybe get one of the older bikes that look at a bike that they used 30 years ago compared to now, do a comparison, just talk about the way things have changed in terms of procedures. And yeah, so that's one we've got in the pipeline. A bit of a reply to some of the questions have been asked. Someone was asking, because I'm not complaining, but when I talk about the jackets and how much they pull on us, someone said, why don't you just have the yellow, the luminous colour built into your leathers and you don't have to wear the jacket? And that's something we've talked about for a while, about possibly doing that. The problem is at the moment we still need to carry quite a bit of stuff on us, and I bumped into Stuart from RST the other day, and we're always working with RST to try and think of better ways or clever ways to make things better for us, because of such a unique set of circumstances of what we require compared to somebody who's racing. So we're talking about possibly making a one-piece suit and building in the pockets for the radios to sit in, and then strapped in, and then maybe running the wiring in through and around the back of the suit and over to us. Wireless stuff, you see, just isn't at the point now where it can remain alive all day in terms of battery life and be consistently connected all the time without any interruption. So we are keeping the wired system at the moment, but we're looking at a way of doing it, and possibly, like I say, with the LTM bib we wear, maybe the version of that. So we've then got the option of just wearing the suit, the leathers by itself, and when the weather's like this, it's fine. Obviously, Manx Grand Prix, again, practice nights can be really, really cold, so it's always nice to have that jacket with you, because 95% of the time you're just stood at the side of the track, and you don't want to be stood there in just your leather perforated suit getting freezing cold, stood up at Brandywell at the end of August, because it can get really cold. So we'll have the option between just wearing the suit when the weather's like this. We can put the bib on over the top of that if we want to. We can make that luminous, and that'll give us a couple of extra pockets. And then we've also got the jacket option then for those cold nights, or if you just prefer having the jacket, because some people do. We haven't all got the same set of criteria. The smaller riders don't have the same problem as maybe I do, or Mike 7 or Mike 4, Steve and Johnny, the taller lads. So we're just going to keep working with RST about that. Scott speaking to the Arai guys, and it's Arai's 40th anniversary of the TT next year in an official capacity, I think. So he didn't tell me what they're going to do, but they're doing something special with the TT lid next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Could be some crazy anniversary gold thing. It might be terrible, but I'm sure it won't. Judy, who did the designs for the Arai TT helmets, they're always good. So I'm sure that'll be spot on. So yeah, basically there's always something going on. Whether we're working with Metzler with the tyres, Arai with the helmets, RST with our gear. Sonic with our radios and the systems that, you know, there's always something going on right now, and there's always something we're looking to try and improve for the future. And it's Tony who's number one. It's a full-time job for him. You know, pretty much he's, for all through the winter, he's talking to them about things we're going to change, things we're going to do. And then we've also got to liaise with the organisation of the TT for the cameras, the trackers, anything that's going to happen, and then talk to Honda, and then we're going to talk to AGR who do all the work on the bikes here. So there's loads going on. People think, you know, you just get the bike and go, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and that's before we even do all of our training in terms of medical stuff and technical official stuff that we do as TMs. So yeah, it's more stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but we'll try and make more videos about those things individually when they sort of come up. So if we're going to do something with a new suit, or we're going to go on the technicals course, we'll make stuff about that, and so each one will be more in depth. So that's what we want to do. Again, if you guys want to see it, we'll make it. So yeah, we've got quite a few interesting things lined up in terms of videos. So hopefully, if you're still enjoying it, like I keep saying, people have been coming up to us in the paddock now saying they're really enjoying what we're doing, and it's nice to see some background of what goes on behind the scenes. And again, I hate feeling like I'm repeating myself, but if you guys are enjoying it, we'll keep making it. So yeah, tomorrow we're going racing again. I've given the bike a once over today, gone through it again, just making sure everything's as it should be. And tomorrow we've got Super Sport and, or is it Super Stock? Super Twin and Super Stock, I think. So probably going to be a Michael Dunlop show again. But you know, anything can happen in these races, and the stockers should be a bit tight, so let's just see how it all pans out. But yeah, we'll get another one made after the next 2 days racing, and give you some more updates on what we've been up to. So thanks again, and see you in the next one.